We're recording. We're live. I guess we should introduce the show. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, and welcome to Geek in the City Radio, issue 602. I am your first and always will be first host, Benarita.
I am your other host, Kaebel Hashtani.
And as mentioned earlier, Aaron is out on assignment. And so we will be bringing you entertainment without him. What do we got planned for tonight?
Technical difficulties. No, I don't know. We were just going to talk about the two shows that we're both currently watching, which is Loki and The Bad Batch, both of them on Disney+.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you wanted to start with. I do know that I wanted to get into a couple things in Loki that I feel might turn into longer conversations, but I could be wrong.
We could definitely start there.
So, other than that, how's your week been?
I got a new job.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Can you say what you're going to do?
Yes. So as listeners already know, for the last couple of months, ever since I had to quit the cult, I've been part-time delivery driving for Reverend Nat, friend of the show. And there came an opening up for a new sales rep team. It took a little while because first they had to hire and onboard their director, and then there was, of course, like a whole interviewing process. But I got the job offer late last week and accepted, and I'll be starting next Monday, maybe Tuesday, because I have pottery class. I'm super excited. I get to stay with Reverend Nats because that's been a really good experience overall. And it's full-time work, which is a little bit terrifying after, a year and a half, basically, at this point. But I've already really learned a lot about what the job entails and what it'll be like on a day-to-day basis. And I think I'm probably going to kick ass. So that's the important part.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. If I have to rejoin the capitalist society, I don't know of too many other places that I'd rather be. So
yeah, it's being a forced participant in capitalism is easier to take if you are given any amount of agency in that. If you feel like whether or not this is actually true and actually does things for you is one thing, but if you feel that and think that you are being heard, that you are allowed to make decisions in your workplace that are for the betterment of yourself and your coworkers, then that's a manageable capitalism, I think. I know I feel that at Guardian, and they're not just paying me to say that. Like, you know me and they know me, and if I felt any other way, I would just say it. So
well, and that's the really exciting part is like someone asked me, or I was talking to someone who sends me job descriptions all the time that she thinks I'd be interested in, and I told her, I'm like, oh well, I actually just accepted a job. And she's like, I thought you weren't really interested. And I was like, well, I thought I wasn't, but then other opportunities fell through. And so I decided I should reconsider thinking about this opportunity. And I explained that, like, I've already known Nat for a number of years and I already work for him and he's an activist. And there's just like a lot of qualities that are largely unknown when you're looking at a company to work for them. That like those boxes were checked off before I even applied. And that goes a really long way towards the desire to want to work somewhere. There's always that question like, well, why would you like to work here? Well, really, I don't care. I just have to have a job to live. Like, well, no. Right. I can honestly say that I do like Reverend Nat and working with and for him. So it was kind of an easy decision, I guess, in that sense.
That's good.
Yeah. How about you? How was your week?
I think it was mostly good. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was mostly good. I think we're still slowly rolling out new events. Like we're having an open play Warhammer night tomorrow night and next Wednesday. So that's the second event we've added to our calendar, along with the Friday Night Magic that's been going on since the end of May. So, and every time we add one more thing, we still get like phone calls to people going, "You're not going fast enough. Why don't we have more open play?" To which I don't get to respond, "Shut the fuck up. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. What is wrong with you people?" Yes, I know games are important to you. They are not more important than people's lives. They just aren't. But for every person that's a little too overeager to get back into in-person play, we have like 20 to 30 people who are like, "Oh, great. As long as we know it's coming, it's fine. Take your time. We'd rather be safe than sorry." So I'm really kind of overall pleased with the clientele that we've had at Guardian throughout the pandemic. I know that it's been nightmarish for most other industries, especially anyone who works in with a broader swath of the public, like grocery stores or coffee shops.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, technically speaking, like games are not exactly a necessity. Like they're not, no one's going to become ill or go hungry from lack of games, but culturally, it's an important thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's been cooped up for so long. I think definitely there's like a little bit of like losing your mind, and you want it to be an on off switch.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, you're like, look, I'm vaccinated, my friends are vaccinated, just fucking go.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to check myself and be like, no, this is fine. Like, I still have to wear my mask everywhere I go, and I still can't sit at a table with more than 6 people, which means I obviously can't plan these big social outings. That's just the way it's going to be for a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely can't take that out on the people whose job it is to enforce that while also doing their regular job.
Yes. Like the onus has been put on small businesses and large businesses and the workers of those businesses to enforce things that no federal, state, or county government will step up and do. They will make very nebulous blanket. It's like, well, our recommendation is this. It's like, just say, stop it. Just tell us, stop doing this. Yes, we're going to put a target date of here. If all of you want to hit that, all of you have to do the thing. If 90% of you do it and 10% don't, that's still not all of you. You want to hit this date? All of you do it. All of you do it, period.
I heard a report, I think yesterday morning, that Washington State is having a lottery that soldiers, not just like veterans or reservists, active duty soldiers can enter into this lottery for. I think it was money, like just like a large sum of money. And you can enter to win if you get vaccinated. And that one is like a weird gray area for me because I heard about the fact that the army was not requiring this vaccination, which is so strange. Everything else has been required. I had to get a smallpox vaccine. I had to get a flu vaccine every year. Like there's no choice given.
Yes, because technically, while you were enlisted, you were United States government property.
Yeah. And so a lot
You
of
don't get to say no.
soldiers who were interviewed about why they were declining the COVID vaccine was, well, they gave us the option. And if I have a choice and I'm allowed to say no, I'm going to say no. It wasn't even necessarily always about their beliefs or fear or whatever about regarding COVID. It was like, well, they never tell me, I can do it or not do it, up to me. And so since it's up to me, I decided to say no. literally because they never are allowed to make their own choice about something, they are just going to not do this. And I'm like, I just don't understand how we've gotten to this point where that's literally enough for you. Like, well, I'm allowed to say no, and that is enough reason to say no. To just whatever, however many people are dying around me.
But that's just it, is they okay. I'm going to extrapolate from incomplete information and make some assumptions. The people that are doing and saying this don't have people dying around them.
Probably not.
They are at least 6 Kevin Bacons removed from anyone who's actually died. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you. I like how that was delayed. It's like, yes, 6 Kevin Bacons. Oh, that's funny.
Well, no, I was trying to not laugh because I was about to put liquid in my body and I just couldn't, I couldn't not. I could not resist.
But like, I think that the other side of this, where people, I'm sorry, I'm losing threads left and right on my thoughts today. Like I did all of my thinking at work, and now it's all done. That's that thing that you were talking about, where you're doing your work on top of this other work of enforcing the. It takes a lot out of you, especially when you do it 5 days a week. Like, I don't want to say I easily see the other side, because I don't. It just doesn't make any sense. But when you are separated by so many people before you actually hear of a death, and it's not anyone you know, and it's all abstract, and until it's, oh my God, Bob died from this thing called COVID, or oh, I've contracted COVID, it does not exist. And the propaganda that has been put out, that all of that is designed to, like, the conspiracy is that it's created by liberal Democrats, and it's designed to be used to enforce fascism, so that they can use this to start taking away people's freedoms. It's like, I get why you, if you don't have counter voices telling you otherwise, it's easy to believe that. Because we feel like we're in a country where our government lies to us on a regular basis, regardless of which side of the political line you're on. And the truth is both sides of the government have been lying to us for decades. And it's not that we should believe them out of hand. We shouldn't take everything they do at face value. But when other experts are telling us, no, really, this is a disease that's killing people, listen to them. It's like politicians know jack and squat. Scientists know what they're talking about, because they're the ones that go, hey, you know that thing we said? We were wrong. We actually meant this. That's what science is supposed to do.
Right. But also politicians have been whittling away, what's the word? The perceived validity of what scientists say for a couple of decades as well. So, oh yes, I've read many an article, or like listened to reports about like how we got here, and like how long it's actually taken, and it is depressing as hell. You know what's not depressing though?
What?
I was doing my delivery driving job this Sunday, and I got to deliver to our friend Zach in the chat.
Oh, nice.
So hi, Zach. And I got to see his lovely new home. And
oh, that's right. He does have a new home.
Yes. And he also granted me a copy of the book Anarchist Jurisdiction. David Walker's art book
Mm-hmm.
with all the great protest propaganda flyers and stuff, the movie
Which
posters.
are very 70s grindhouse feel
Hmm. Yeah,
posters. Yeah, they were great.
very like black exploitation film vibes.
Hmm.
Some really good titles in there though. I can't think of a better word.
No, that's what they were. They're designed to be movie posters for set in the anarchist jurisdiction of Portland.
So that's a good collection, and I definitely recommend it to people if it's still something you can buy. I know it was kickstarted, but
Hmm.
I'm assuming at this point it's available on shelves
Maybe,
at your local comic book store, maybe,
possibly.
or probably go to David Walker's website. I should have prepared for this plug that I just threw in here.
Yes, you should have prepared for the thing that you're doing extemporaneously.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. That's the right word, right? Extemporaneous. There's impromptu. There's extemporaneous. And what
Yes,
was? Okay.
that is exactly, you are using that word exactly right.
Hey, look what I remembered from high school speech and debate class.
I know a lot of words and their usage purely from the context under which I first read them,
Hmm.
and very rarely can actually give a proper definition to a word means.
I usually float by on my contextual understanding of a word until someone asks me to define it, and then I will literally go to dictionary.com and look it up. So I can go, oh, it is what I thought it meant. It's exactly what I thought it meant. Look at that.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad it's not just me because I thought that was just some sort of weird, ESL kid type of thing.
I don't think it's an ESL kid type of thing. I think it is an academic reader thing. Like if
Mm,
you read a lot as a kid and then still like to learn things, that's definitely a throwback to that.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
All right. Are we ready to talk about some Loki now?
I think so. Is everyone else ready to talk about Loki? You can certainly chime in the chat, folks. We are watching it. At least I am. I don't know about you. Oh,
Are you
of
talking to
course you
me or
are.
the listeners?
You.
Yes.
But I did see you weigh in on the chat, so of course you are. Durr. Yeah, I clicked on the thing. So the last week's Loki, the second episode of Loki was kind of had the issue 0 last week, where we kind of set up the TVA and set up Loki and got all the players in the right place. And episode 2 actually jumped a lot further forward than I was expecting.
Yeah, they revealed something that I know people were talking about on the internet as like a hopeful situation, but
Mm-hmm.
boo, they just threw it right in there, episode 2, right off the bat.
Oh yeah. And if you're only going to do 6 episodes, it's like, well, yeah, of course you're going to have to do it now because you don't have any other choice. Loki goes on his first away mission with the TVA team and fails miserably, and that leads to some more soul searching and a revelation of sorts as he digs through data that he doesn't want to. He regroups with Mobius. Mobius believes his theory is sound. They go back again to try to test it, and turns out he's right. They discover the actual culprit behind the murders, and they realize far too late that they've already stepped into the middle of the implementation of the fiendish plot of our Loki. We also discover who this Loki is and are left with more questions than answers by the end of the episode. That seemed like a reasonable recap.
That is a nice spoiler-free recap.
Yeah. So from this point forward, we're going to be in spoiler territory if you haven't watched the episode already.
You've had the better part of a week though, so I hope you
Mhm.
did.
I thought that, like, I again will go back to, I think that Owen Wilson is the only person they could have hired for this role. because he and Tom Hiddleston are fantastic together. I love their on-screen chemistry. I like their. It's funny to watch Loki kind of play the straight man for a change.
Yes, I like he is taking himself so Loki, the character, is taking
Mhm.
himself so seriously, and Mobius is not smug, and I wouldn't even say sarcastic, but like kindly condescending.
Mhm.
I think is like the best way I can think to put that.
Yeah, he has Loki's number and has the entire time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's just not impressed. He also is sort of underestimating him, I think. Like Loki really had to push to explain his theory and prove that he was correct about it
Mhm.
before Mobius would really like go anywhere with him on it. Um,
And I definitely, in Loki's theory about where the evil Loki is hiding, um, that definitely had some Doctor Who vibes to it. It's like that's some Doctor Who logic. It works. I get it. I like it, but that is some Doctor Who logic right there.
it really is, but I think that's maybe why it works. Like that's a precedent that has like been set, like
Mhm.
50, like 10 years ago. So we're good. We're in the clear.
Yep. Um, yeah, I'm fascinated that the show is definitely trying to be a show of smart writing and clever writing, and it's certainly hitting that peak. At no point do I feel like they're talking down to the audience. Like Mobius talks down to Loki. They don't talk down to the audience. They're like, we're going to discuss concepts of time travel. Keep up. Oh, you are. Good job. Come here, cat. No? Okay. Your cat's
um
going to sit just out of reach.
I really enjoy Ms. Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't they could have gone any direction with that and done it in any format and any character archetype.
Mm-hmm.
They could have made it like really bland and that would have had its own form of amusement to it, but there's just something so precious about this like southern drawl little cartoon character that pops out of the computer and continues to be part of the training experience for Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because when you come up with a character that charming and just kind of silly and fun, it's nice to be able to kind of keep that going.
You also don't hire one of the most recognized voices in voice acting if it's just a throwaway gag.
Very recognizable, and yet I do not know what her name is or what else. I can't name anything that I know her from.
Tara Strong, and you know her from everything. She's
Okay.
Bubbles in the Powerpuff Girls. She's Harley Quinn. She's um, various superheroes in both DC and Marvel universes, and villains in both. Um, she's been on everything, everything for 2 decades. She is one of the most prolific voice actors.
So I would only know her by voice, not necessarily by face.
You might. She looks like she's a cartoon character, and
Oh,
she's
she
about
was on that.
5'1".
Well, she did the Fairly Odd Parents.
Mm-hmm.
That is a show that like really holds up to an older audience. Drawn Together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, she's been in everything.
She's been in everything. It's like I'm not kidding. Like I can't list all of her credits because they're too long.
No, she's got like 70.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, I did not expect that character to continue to have a presence after that one scene in the first episode, and I was pleasantly surprised to be wrong.
Mm-hmm. I love the question of are you real or are you like an AI. It's like, are these programmed responses? Or are you responding to me directly? She's like, little column A, little column B. It's like, that's more disturbing. It's like you should be a cartoon character, but you're self-aware. Weird.
Like full on sentient AI, but also you're a two-dimensional cartoon that comes out of the computer and continues to be a two-dimensional cartoon. Norm in the chat is saying that, like, as a Southerner, he commends Tara Strong's Southern accent.
That's high praise.
Probably one of the best scenes in the whole episode is like, can we just all watch Tom Hiddleston destroy Owen Wilson's salad? Just always.
He's just saying that. No, don't do that. Why? What's? Oh
shaking.
no! But now you've just been. Oh, but yeah. And then he steals,
frantically shaking the salt and pepper.
And then he steals Eugene Cordero's soda. He's like, "Hey, oh, it's you again."
I hope he continues to recur.
I do too. Like, Rutherford is definitely one of my favorite characters on Lower Decks, and so, like, I'm excited to see Eugene Cordero every time he shows up on screen now. It's like, ooh, it's Rutherford. Yay.
Damn it, Zach. He says destroying Owen Wilson's salad is a euphemism, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is.
Oh, no. Also, no, never mind. I was going to get into, like, well, depending on how much of that was salt and how much of that was pepper, it might have actually been improving the salad, but I'm not going to get into it right now. Unnecessary.
Yeah, once he starts pouring Coke into it, it's gone. It's done.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm like, this is there's nowhere to go with this. Just leave it.
I think for me, a couple of the standout moments was watching Loki's genuine emotional response to reading about the destruction of his homeworld in black and white. Like, he wasn't there. He didn't get to see it. He just reads Ragnarok. Everyone died. Asgard was destroyed. No survivors. It's like, what? It's like that. It's like, I haven't yet come to grips with the fact that I die. Are you telling me everybody dies? And there's a handful of Asgardians left?
Yeah. Definitely not 10,000. But
no, I think there was
maybe like 1,000.
There is a small fishing village worth of Asgardians left on Earth.
That's right. Yes, I was trying to remember where they ended up after the end of Ragnarok.
They ended up in the place where Odin had prepared for them.
Somewhere in...
Yeah, it kept taking me a little bit because the things are a bit disjointed. But yeah, it was where Thor and Loki where Strange sent Thor and Loki to Norway.
Right, and they were sort of like on a grassy cliff overlooking the ocean and the sky. Yep. I never realized that was the same place.
I didn't put it together until like a rewatch of Ragnarok and went, oh, Odin already knew this was coming. And he was there because he went to Earth so that he could figure out a way to prepare to move everyone from Asgard.
I never put that together.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things you start noticing when you go back to rewatch things. It's like, oh, that thing they did 10 movies later, now I see where they set it up in this movie right here.
So much other stuff happens in between those. You remember, I rewatched all of the Marvels last year. By the time 15, I am not going to remember like Easter egg tie-ins to movie 6. It's a lot of info, but that's mostly just my brain. It's bad. It's bad.
But yeah, that was a hell of a thing. Just to watch him just start to tear up, I'm like, there's so much that he is not yet prepared for, and yet when he composes himself, he's back to.
He has not let any of this stuff slow him down yet.
And he can't, but he knows that he's going to have to address it soon.
Yeah, I assume at some point in the series, there's going to be an emotional reckoning.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine it's probably going to be episode 4 or 5.
Seems about right. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I imagine it's going to be pretty big.
And ugly.
I'm also like getting upset just thinking about it.
I think there's going to be a lot of ugly crying on Loki's part.
Well, it just kind of reminds me about how all of the internet right now is talking about everyone's like trying to like get back out in the world and start, and young people, I guess, especially are like ready to party again because that's what young people do. And we're just going to forget about all the grief and trauma from the past year. And it's going to be bad. It's not going to go well.
No, it's not.
Because you're moving on to the after it's all said and done phase without the processing it all phase.
Yeah, there are still those 5 stages of grief. And if you skip ahead just for acceptance, that's not going to end well.
Mm-hmm. No. I mean, I have felt some of that just myself. And it's like when I first started reading comments like that, I was like, oh, this makes me feel bad.
What is it? There's anger.
It's bargaining. First is denial. Denial, anger, bargaining, one other, and then acceptance. Mm-hmm. I should know that because I recently played a video game of grief.
Interesting. I related to Loki in the Marvel Universe, in Endgame, the death of Black Widow, when the remaining 5 Avengers are sitting on a pier talking about it, they all represent one stage of grief.
Depression. The 4th stage is depression.
Yep.
Also,
and Tony's, of course, Banner was anger, but Tony's response, I think it's Tony's response. It's whoever someone asks, did she have any family? The last person who embodies acceptance, it's either Tony or Steve, is the one that answers. It's like, we were her family. It's like, okay, that hurt. We have a theory about Black Widow. We'll go on.
I'm looking at the list, the 5 stages of grief. Mm-hmm. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. One could argue, and in fact, I bet that there is already a Twitter thread theses on how the Marvel TV series that we've been getting recently are, in fact, the 5 stages of grief. WandaVision, denial.
Mm-hmm.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, anger. Loki, bargaining. Because in effect, he is, I mean, I know that this is technically like a past tense situation, but he is in a situation where he is sort of like working with people who are, like they're at odds, but they're working together for, an ultimate goal. It's a little loose. Someone smarter than me has probably put this together much better, though.
I think you're onto something here.
I know.
Yes, I think Loki is definitely bargaining. The next Marvel TV show coming down the pike is What If, though.
Right, and that's like the multiverse type stuff, right? With like alternate versions of stuff.
Hmm. So I
I
don't know that
cannot.
that's quite, that might skip this
Depression.
particular theme. Yeah. Um, but the other shows that are coming up are She-Hulk and Hawkeye.
Ooh,
And
Hawkeye could totally be depression.
Hawkeye could also be acceptance because it's not about Clint.
Oh, it's his daughter, huh?
No, it's not his
No?
daughter. It's Kate Bishop.
Oh, I don't really know a bunch about that. But I was under the impression that they were sort of replacing an unrelated character who becomes the next Hawkeye with his daughter and kind of queuing her up to be the next Hawkeye.
She's not the next Hawkeye. It's
Okay.
still, they're still playing with the character Kate Bishop. She's not related to Clint.
Gotcha. And have we been introduced to that character within the MCU? Okay, cool.
Nope.
It's very possible that we had and I didn't recognize it or didn't remember. So
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's some merit to that theory there.
it kind of blew my own mind. I'm pretty pleased with myself right now.
As you should be. Before we get to the big reveal in Loki, the other thing that I wanted to touch on that was kind of a throwaway background thing, or like it's background fodder. It's not meant to be part of the larger discussion, but off screen, I pointed at it and went, that is some very, very disturbing, poignant commentary that I don't like.
Okay, you'll have to definitely refresh me on it.
And that was, so Loki comes up with the theory that evil Loki's unfair.
Bad Loki.
Yeah, bad Loki is hiding out in Apocalypse.
Is that the pluralization of apocalypse?
That's my pluralization of apocalypse.
Because I would have thought it would be apocalypses.
It probably is. I like apocalypse.
Okay.
But I also say octopi, and that's no longer correct for reasons.
So. I don't care for that correction. You know, last time they said something's not what we said it was, they took it back again after. Yeah. Remember the whole Pluto situation?
Yep. I think it's still in flux. I don't know.
It's somewhere in between a planet and not a planet.
But the once they've talked about how clearly that this Loki is hiding in an apocalypse somewhere, they realize, okay, it has to be on Earth because of this candy bar and blah blah blah. And they're like, that narrows it down to this period to this period. And I'm like, that is less than 20 years from now. Go on. And then Mobius comes out with 2 significantly very large stacks of files. And it's like, here you go, take that half, I'll take this half, and we'll race. It's like, you're racing through what looks to be 30 different apocalyptic events that happen inside of a 3-year window.
Wait, how many in a 3-year window?
About 30. And like they all start in 2049 and end in 2051. I'm like, nope. That's uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable because it like
that feels right.
Yes, it does. Loki even comments, it's like, this seems like a lot. It was not a good time.
No, but it makes sense if you think about like how many different things are coming to a head and how many like catastrophic predictions scientists have been warning, and especially if like, you know, the calculations are off or social and environmental changes happen at such a rate that it throws off those predictions, we could like be compacting all of these different apocalypse. You know, like they might be like apocalypses. They Yeah, like let's say like, oh, all of these different bad things are going to happen in this 25-year span if we keep doing what we're doing. And everyone's like, yeah, whatever, dude. We're going to keep doing this and make it and more. And then that's going to like truncate the window of time in which all of those bad things happen, such that I would not be surprised if, the years 2049 through 2051 are real bad.
I think we'll be lucky if it's not 2029 through 2031.
Well, I'm going to start drinking more so I don't live to see that.
It's I think for me, it's every time that we start talking about future events, and then I do the math and realize, oh shit, that's next week. It started this year when I actually did the math on First Contact Day and went, fuck, I'd be 92.
And you're
I will be
you're
90,
on the downhill side of that.
Yeah.
Right.
I will be 92 on First Contact Day. That's April 15th, 2063. Or April 5th, 2063.
63.
I was born in 1971.
So that's 42 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not on the downhill side of that, but it's close.
Mm-hmm.
It's close. It's a 5-year window.
So when, these things start making predictions of like, oh, it's going to be like this in this far off year of 2037, that's, dude, no, that's a person. That's the passage of a person from birth to mid-adulthood. That's not that far. It's no wonder that, like, you can forget things that happened 10 years ago because we just keep moving, rushing headlong forward into this.
Sack points out that those predictions are about right for the real world, or the, like X number. What was it? 30 something apocalypses in that 3-year window. He says that's about right for the real world, but a typical superhero team individually thwarts at least 2 apocalypses every year.
Yep.
So that's light for them.
See, and I keep saying apocalypses when we say this, and I keep just seeing that in my head as apocalypse ... apocalypse ellipses.
That's what I enjoy about it.
Apocalypses. The gang learns about the crushing weight of time. Very funny, Norm. Also, hi, Steve. Steve Coker is visiting us as well in the chat.
It occurs to me that like maybe we should have always been doing this on Facebook. And I know we started out earlier in the pandemic and then we moved to YouTube, but more of our friends are already on Facebook.
Yeah.
Of course, it's Facebook.
Of course, it is Facebook.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, this and Guardian Games are the only things I use Facebook for.
I wish I were better than that, but I'm not.
I don't like posting anything on it.
Also, it's where my Buy Nothing neighborhood group is, and I spend a lot of time on that.
There are other ways. There are other things that we can do to get away from Facebook, but it takes a concentrated effort, and it takes it like you would have to organize that through a Facebook event in order to get people off of it. So,
emails. Let's all go back to emails.
Phone trees.
Oh man, when was the last time I used a phone tree?
I don't know.
Damn. Now I feel old.
Yeah. So anyway, Loki. The big reveal that we've been hinting at is that we finally meet the villain of the series, which turns out to be a Loki that even Loki wasn't expecting. And that is a woman.
I mean, I'm going to assume that much like Hulk, the woman Hulk is referred to as She-Hulk, the female Loki is probably referred to as like Lady Loki or some such.
I don't know that that's true because she didn't even want to be called Loki.
Oh, what did she go by?
She didn't.
But she just didn't want it to be Loki.
when they were talking, she was talking to Loki through proxies via enchantment. When he says Loki, I assume the proxy went, "Don't call me that." It's like, okay, there's more of a story there, but we don't actually know her name yet. I mean, we know it's Loki, but we don't know what she's preferring to be called.
Steve Coker says Loquette.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. Speaking of which, we need to have him back on to talk to us about the project that he's been working on. He showed me some brief stuff that I won't reveal, but he showed me some stuff that he's been working on during the pandemic, and it's still right up the alley of all the stuff that he was doing with the Flash musical and everything. So
super.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
yes. All right. Call us, Steve.
yeah, Steve, we'll be in touch when Aaron's back from assignment. We'll get this all back together. But yeah,
I don't know why Norm is asking this, but he says the real thing is, do you remember your old house phone number? And I do, even though they finally stopped having a landline. I still know it, and I'm mad that they don't have it anymore.
I don't. I don't remember my home phone number when I was a kid.
It helps that my home wasn't my home until I was in high school, and then I moved out right after high school. But then it was still the phone number for a long time.
I do remember when I didn't have to dial 9 numbers in the state of Oregon.
Oh, because they. Now I can't remember what that was. It was like a regional thing that
10
didn't
10
like
numbers. Right.
like it was long distance, even though it wasn't a long distance. It was like
Yeah, it was when the state of Oregon went from a single area code to 2 area codes. And then that got complicated further in the 90s when we had to have a second area code just for the Portland metro area. So we all went from 503 to 503 was the Portland metro and this side of the state, and 541 for central and eastern Oregon. And then we got 971 for the Portland area. Hi, come here.
That like blows my mind. The idea that like people remember what that was like, the area code changes or the complications related to that.
Because it was within the past 50 years. It's not ancient history.
Well, I grew up in Phoenix, which apparently has just always been like a mega city.
Yeah, because no one else wants to live in anywhere else in Arizona. You just live in one space that you can air condition
I
the
mean,
hell out of.
There's like Tucson, but
I've been to Tucson.
my in-laws live in Tucson. There's nothing happening there, which I think is why they like it. Like when when you're a retiree, I can see how Tucson could be appealing, but no, thank you. Not even Phoenix. No thanks.
My mom's parents would winter in Tucson. When they were retired. I'm not quite sure how anyone retires from farming, to be honest. Especially if you still live on the farm. You don't retire. They just
don't make money at it anymore?
No, like it would snow in the winter. You can't really harvest any crops. The fields are full of snow. So you go on vacation instead. So they had an RV and would spend winters in Tucson.
Snowbirds.
Mm-hmm.
I always, when I was younger anyway, I always wanted my family to live closer, or at least further north than, the southernmost state on the west.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom cannot handle the cold at all.
Really?
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, she's been in Phoenix, Arizona for like almost 40 years now. She doesn't really travel a lot. Even when she was like, she had a job as like a regional something that had her going like state to state. It was other southwestern states.
Okay.
It's like I think like one of her big hangouts was what is the capital of New Mexico?
Santa Fe?
Santa
No.
Fe.
Yeah.
Nothing with a P. No, not Santa Fe. He's shaking his head, but he's not answering me. Uh, oh, he doesn't know. Okay. The other kind of shaking your head.
Wait,
I think
it's
it is Santa Fe.
we have the internet.
What did I say? It was something with a P. Anyway, it was wherever they filmed Breaking Bad because she met
It's
Paul
Santa
what's
Fe.
his face. It is Santa Fe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, she hasn't left the desert ever, ever. She had a trip to Hawaii and she didn't go. She sent me and my sister.
I see.
So yeah, she can't handle anything like below 50 degrees, which like for me is for us is nice. That's
Yes.
pleasant.
Yes. It's like, oh, it's sweater weather today. I think I'm going to have some tea. Yep. Yeah. 50 is great. It gets above 75 up here, and we're like, I
Dying.
hate it.
Although I am turning into my mother, the thermostat is always set around 70 something.
Yeah, that's fair.
I used to
No.
think that was like too cold and too warm at the same time.
Also, if you're in the Portland metro area on Saturday, for the love of God, stay indoors, drink lots of water, turn off the lights. It's going to be 111 degrees.
Find a sprinkler.
No, like don't be outside.
Well, sometimes being inside is worse. A lot of people still don't have AC.
Basically get somewhere where you're not going to roast. The highest temperature the human body is able to withstand for any length of time is like 108 degrees. After, like, if you spend like more than an hour out in 108-degree heat, your brain is melting.
That's so crazy. Like the 18 years younger version of me that first moved to the Northwest would not believe you if you said, "Oh yeah, it's June and we're going to have 100-degree days here in the Northwest." It just it was unheard of just that short while ago.
Getting back to that whole, hey, look, we're in apocalypse season.
Apocalypses.
Jeez.
Okay, well let's move on from like the like the heat death of our planet.
Yep. I am interested to see where the next episode of Loki takes us. We did see Loki abandon the group in the middle of the apocalypse. We know that something that Lady Loki, Loket, Little Miss Don't Call Me Loki, implemented probably part one of her plan, which I'm not on, like, I'm on the fence about. I don't know that she's evil or the bad guy. We just know that she's got it out for the timekeepers, and we aren't sure that they're good guys either. But like taking all of those time bombs and teleporting them across time so it doesn't cause one branching variance, but like 30, 40, 100. Like, she's effectively breaking time. So I'll be interested to see where that goes as well. It also dawned on me after this episode. I'm like, hang on a second. WandaVision, our major villain, our major antagonist is... I'm going to stop using the word villain. I'm going to use the word antagonist. Our antagonist is Agatha Harkness. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Our antagonist is Carly.
Mm-hmm.
With antagonist support by Sharon Carter, aka the Power Broker, and the Contessa, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And now our antagonist for Loki is Lady Loki. So that's now 3 series where the focus has been on the bad guy is a woman, but are any of them, except for the Contessa, like Lady Hydra is genuinely a villain. She's a bad guy, period. But everyone else has very different motivations for what they're doing and why they're doing it. Agatha Harkness wanted to diffuse Wanda's power.
She
She
had too
wanted to
much
take
of
it from her.
it.
Yes, because she knew that the Scarlet Witch is a bigger threat to the planet and to reality in general than she was. Carly Morgenthau, is that the character's name?
That sounds right.
She got killed in the pursuit of her of bringing about a better world, and she was so strong in her conviction and her beliefs that they were then taken up by Captain America, the person who had been chasing her. Which leads me to believe I don't think Lady Loki is the villain in this. She's the
Probably not.
antagonist, but I don't think she's going to be the villain. And I think that's great. And I think that says a lot more about when men are bad guys and when women are bad guys.
I have a little bit of a different take on that, just
Mhm.
because the golden age of television brought us not the villain, but the antagonist,
Mhm.
the relatable, misunderstood, maybe even well-meaning, but objectively the bad guy version of
The
the
villain.
anti-hero.
Sure.
Yeah. The relatable bad guy. And I don't know, like one could argue that, well, it's a concept that has like been rolling out for, I don't know, 15 years now. But because Disney is working so hard to be progressive, we're getting it all from female anti-heroes.
Do you think it's
Or
just for Disney they're ticking boxes, or do you think that they're actually the storytellers for this are making conscious choices?
I don't think they're just ticking boxes. I just think that the complicated villain, the relatable bad guy is in some ways a sort of new concept in writing, in storytelling, in hero tales. It just so happens that this is the first time we're seeing it be played by, or written with back-to-back female antagonists. But the concept of a complicated or relatable or misunderstood antagonist is something that we've been pushing towards for a little while now. Enough so that it's more than the standard and the norm than it used to be the weird, unique thing.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, hold on. There's some stuff in the chat here.
There's a lot. I like that this is sparking conversation amongst
Yeah.
the folks listening.
If you live in 2021 and want to prevent something cataclysmic from happening in 2020, you might be considered heroic again, unless you're being viewed from further in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dang it. I scrolled too far. That was preceded by, if you want to prevent the Viking Age to spare the British Isles from violent conflict, that's a heroic aim, provided you don't live in 2021 and don't want your universe to cease to exist. That's a huge element that we haven't even touched on, is like, yeah, right now we're looking at Loki as like the reluctant hero and Loket as what we assume will probably be a relatable bad guy. But that's just the lens that we're expecting we're gonna get it from. What do her actions mean to the people from the point in time that she comes from? That could be totally different. That's like, that is a lot to process right now, because we only have this little bit about her so far.
Yeah, I truly am engaged with this show, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 episodes and seeing where they go. My personal, if I had a wish list for this show, it would be wishing for the conclusion of the show, to whatever it is, to end with the destruction of Tom Hiddleston's Loki in order to create Kid Loki. I want to see him get that second chance by turning him into Kid Loki, which there's merit to the theory since they're already putting together the rest of the Young Avengers.
Oh, are they?
We've seen it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we've seen it in the other shows. Like, we're getting Kate Bishop. America Chavez is showing up in Doctor Strange. We've already seen Prodigy, who's the grandson of Isaiah Bradley. We've got Wanda's two kids.
Right. And technically Spider-Man can fall into that as well because he's younger than the other Avengers that he is currently or has up to date been paired up with.
True. I'm specifically talking about the Young Avengers as they existed in that particular comic.
Canonically.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, it's pretty much, they've introduced all of these characters. I'm like, the only person they're missing is Kid Loki, and then this has started. And I'm like,
And see, meanwhile, Bex is theorizing that maybe the Loki series sets off a bunch of timey-wimey stuff that will lead to, like, tie into the What If series that will feature Loket instead of Loki.
So the only stories that I know that they're telling in What If are, what if Peggy Carter were Captain America?
Mm-hmm.
Or not Captain America, but what if Peggy Carter was given the super soldier serum?
Right.
What if a young Prince T'Challa was taken to the stars by the Ravagers instead of Peter Quill?
Ooh.
Yeah. What if Tony Stark was the one who ended up on Sakaar and not the Hulk? And what if zombies?
Of course.
And I only know the Tony Stark one because there's a Lego set. Because it comes with Tony Stark, a version of his Hulkbuster armor that is part built out of Sakaar and junk, the Watcher minifigure, and a Valkyrie minifigure. But I don't know how many episodes of What If there are, and I don't know what the other storylines are. So who knows?
It sounds like it'll be pretty fun, though.
And it's all animated.
Even better.
Yep.
I always feel like you can do so much more with an animated series.
Well, we should probably move to the Bad Batch while we have a little bit of time to talk about it.
Speaking of which.
But before we do that, I do want to throw out something. It dawned on me this week. When I saw yet one more ad for Black Widow, which I think comes out in 2 weeks at this point.
Really?
It didn't dawn on me until, like, seeing this. I'm like, oh, good God. This is how they're going to continue having a Black Widow in the Marvel Universe, because it's not going to be Scarlett Johansson. It's going to be Florence Pugh.
Is this a younger actress?
It's the blonde woman in the movie with Scarlett Johansson who plays her sister. I'm like, oh, good God. I don't know why that didn't dawn on me before, but that's likely what they're going to do. Maybe. I was curious
who that character is supposed to be.
You know when this finally occurred to me? It was because someone did a meme where it was a picture of Florence Pugh standing there with guns, and the caption, the only two words that were in there were her last name, spelled Pughpughh. She was standing there with going pew pew. I laughed my ass off. I'm like, oh my God,
this is clever.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is so dumb, it's funny. Pew pew. But yeah, that's my theory on Black Widow. I think it's how they're getting the Black Widow back into the universe, but without it being Scarlett Johansson. And then she can do the same thing that Chris Evans is doing, where he's just producing and directing movies.
I had not previously been interested in. Ooh, excuse me, full of bourbon. I had not previously been interested in the Black Widow movie just because I was
Mhm.
like, well, I already know how her story ends. Like, how hyped can I get for that character now? But I think in retrospect, really, it's just that I was annoyed with how her story ends.
Mhm.
You know, in the main MCU stuff, and that big teaser about like the next like 10 years of MCU shit. Like they had such a like, I think almost half of it was Black Widow footage, and they got me. Those jerks have my money every year.
I get the theory behind that, and I think I've said the same thing about other pieces of media, and have been called to carpet on it. And it's like, really, you're gonna bypass this thing because you know how it ends? It's like, yeah, it's like you know how this ended, and you know how this ended, and yet you still became engaged with this other thing that's a prequel to it. It's like, oh yeah, you're right.
Right. I mean, it's not just that like I already know that she dies at X point because I mean, I could argue the same for Loki, but I've always enjoyed Loki as a character. Meanwhile, I've never been given the opportunity to become invested in Black Widow as a character
Right.
via the MCU. That's probably the better or bulkier, meatier reason why I'm like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
You've never made me care about this character until now, and now she's dead, and now you want me to like watch her movie that
Now
you
you want me to
finally got
care?
around to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like it's a whole like, combination of things.
But
But regardless, I'm gonna see it. Of course
yeah,
I'm gonna see it.
like I'm interested in watching it. It's certainly of the four movies that are coming out this year in the MCU, that's lowest on my list. Definitely the highest is Shang-Chi.
Mm, that one definitely looks like that's gonna be the most fun.
I hope
Um,
so. Man,
but
I hope
the
so.
Doctor Strange one, I bet is gonna be really, really good.
That's next year.
Oh, okay. Never
This
mind.
year is Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, and Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay, if those are the four that are happening 2021, then Shang-Chi is also the one I'm most excited about.
Yeah. I think Doctor Strange is the first one for next year. Doctor Strange, Love and Thunder. I forget the other two. It's all on the internet. People can look it up. Bad Batch.
Yes. All right. For reals now. Bad Batch.
Bad Batch recap is simply while our heroes are still on the scrapyard planet, we check back in with Crosshair. And Crosshair and the Imperials get a heads up that there might be maybe some activity on this scrap planet, and they may have found the Bad Batch.
Hold on.
So,
Did I miss an episode? I thought we were on
oh
episode 7. Yeah?
no, we're on episode 8.
Oh my God, I missed an episode. How can be?
Well, we might let's skip this review then.
No, it's totally fine. I'll just go watch it right after we're done here. But how did
I absolutely cannot go any further without no,
without spoiling it?
it's an episode you've got to watch.
Oh, damn it. Oh my God, I feel so dumb. And like I'm ruining the show right now. Well, then did we talk about episode 7?
Yes, we did. Episode
Okay.
7 is where they remove everybody's chips.
Hi, my brain is just gone apparently.
You've been securing gainful employment. So
It was a really intense couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Episode 7 was the removing of chips. Episode 8 starts out they're still on that planet.
Okay. Well, I mean, is there anything more that you can tell me, without giving anything too much away?
Crosshair and the Imperials show up and shit goes sideways. That's the episode.
Once you tell someone Crosshair shows up, the obvious next part of that formula is that shit is going to go sideways. So
it has to. It is.
Yeah. Oh man. And here we
It,
go, like, third to last from the end of the series. It's just, where the reckoning happens. It's
oh
it's
God,
only
no.
10 episodes, right?
No, it's 16. We're only halfway in.
Oh, why did I think it was only 10? Okay. Well, then even that is like not working correctly in my brain.
This is
Super.
why I am convinced that Omega A survives this series and B is going to be a live action character in the Book of Boba Fett, because um, Book of Boba Fett starts in October.
Mm.
Bad Batch doesn't end until October.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But also like Omega was obviously always going to be a big deal, and you know that because her name is Omega.
Mm-hmm. She's the fucking end.
And yeah, it's like she's going to she's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. I don't know what that's gonna look like yet, but they've been hinting at it from episode 1.
Bex is correcting me. I believe that she is correct. It says that it ends in August.
Well, does that mean it's not 16 episodes, or what's the math here?
No, it
8,
is still 16
9, 10,
episodes.
11.
But I'm off on my math. If it started in May, June, July,
Yeah,
August. Yeah, that makes sense.
16 episodes is the end of July. No, early August.
September,
Math.
or August,
Math is
October.
hard.
I think I was confusing it with the end of the world. It's fine. Which I'm
try
sure
not
is
to think
happening
about
in
that
October.
too hard.
I keep having to forecast again at work, and I'm like, oh man, every time you make me think about the future, I'm not getting past October, and that's not good.
That is concerning, Cable.
Yes.
I mean,
We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We're going to stick on the Bad Batch. I I will say that the Bad Batch did some things that I was not expecting in this episode, and that's like, I'm trying to anticipate a lot in this show, and it's like, nope, I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming. And it just starts to lend credence to theories that we have about the the Book of Boba Fett and season 3 of Mandalorian and Ahsoka and the Rangers of the New Republic. There is so much that's getting set up here. It just fascinates me how well Filoni and crew have been just stitching everything together.
Of the two franchises, we've got 2 different franchises that are historically mostly movies, and now they're like really making this push for television. And who do you think is doing a better job of tying things together, like weaving the loom more cohesively than the other, do you think?
The 2 franchises you're talking about are the MCU and Star Wars, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a little bit of apples and oranges in comparison this, because if we were just talking about the showrunners of both, if you talk about Kevin Feige and the MCU, by and large, everything that he's been doing had a grand design, and he has adapted when he's needed to add more to it, or to like
Pivot because of actors.
Yep. Like Iron Man was a gamble, but it hit, and that allowed him to do Thor and Captain America and then the Avengers. But he still had to do all that legwork to get there, even though he had things projected further on. So I think he's done a fantastic job. and that he's probably pulled together the people that he needs in order to do that, because that's a lot to be managed by one person. And if you take things into consideration, like Loki is not that interesting of a character. Loki is a trickster god. He's been a finger steepling, sneering villain in the comics for years. He's just me. I'm Loki.
Thank you for clarifying. When you say Loki is not that interesting, you mean in the comics.
I mean the character as originally intended. Mm-hmm. And then they hired Tom Hiddleston, and Tom Hiddleston comes on screen and goes,
yeah, he does.
And everyone's like, tell us more.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is zero reason that when Thor was pitched, that we should have ever thought there was going to be a television show about Loki. But as soon as Tom Hiddleston came on screen, it's like, oh, good God, you have to be in everything now. You're going to be the villain in Avengers. You're going to come back in Thor 2 and Thor 3. Hey, you know what? We're going to kill you, but we're not going to kill you. We're going to give you a TV show. It's like, what? Why? Because of Tom Hiddleston. Tom Hiddleston changed that character. Like, Tom Hiddleston is the reason that the character of Loki looks like Tom Hiddleston in the comics now. Mm. That's not historically what Loki looked like for 30, 40 years before that.
What did he look like before? Like significantly different?
Bigger horns and a skull cap and all green and gold. Like, it's the same color scheme, but there was, like, he was just a mustache twirling villain, except he didn't have a mustache.
Bex points out that the accent doesn't hurt because you don't get that in comics.
This is also true. Except for Thor. The way that they always did the lettering on Thor, you knew that he spoke like a Shakespearean actor. I don't know why.
Which I'm sure like is part of why they hired
an Australian.
Yes. Chris, what's his face?
Chris Hemsworth.
Thank you.
It also helped that like they actually wrote Thor speaking with thy, thou, verily, and forsooth. That was part of his dialogue in the comics.
Calm thine tits.
Yes. Verily.
Which I believe it is. It doesn't like that meme is in Old English font.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But Tom's Loki is fantastic. Like, he's a character he's an actor that brings something to the character, and the character is then something you want to watch more of.
As Norm puts it, Tom Hiddleston plays Loki like he's an uber-rich private school brat who rides everywhere on a tsunami of confidence.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well.
Mm-hmm. So like that's the sort of, well, I didn't see that coming, that Kevin Feige's had to contend with in managing the Marvel universe, to get back to your original question. Whereas Dave Filoni is working he's not in his own backyard. He's come into someone else's work. And that's why I always refer to what he's been doing to the Star Wars universe as stitching it together. Because there are things that were left unanswered, or this character fell off. This was like, oh, we're going to do this. And then that gets inferred over here. It's like, yeah, but that you didn't, there's no glue. There's no reason why any of those things went together. And Dave has gone in and went, I'm going to create this character and this storyline. And then this wraps up with this. And people look at that and go, oh, that makes perfect sense now. Now I get why that happened. Why wasn't it written that way? It's like, because George Lucas was making it up as he went along.
I totally agree with both of those explanations of what you've said regarding Feige and Filoni. But those explanations are why I think that Filoni is the one doing the not better job, but has the tougher job and pulling it off smoothly. Because it's one thing to be quick on your feet and like be able to pivot your game plan based on environmental changes.
Because it's your game plan.
Yes, yes, and it's all yours.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole nother thing to come in to an environment where it is all bits and pieces. Like in a lot of ways, like the original Star Wars content was like essentially guerrilla filmmaking. And things are being randomly thrown in, half-assed ideas are being used, and so they don't have context. There are characters without background. Like there is a background implied, but it doesn't actually exist. And to take all of those bits and pieces and turn it into a cohesive map of the universe is, I think, significantly more impressive.
Which is 100% because of the fan base that exists. Like, the fan base is the most vocal members of the fan base who are obsessed with the minutia of this are the ones that want those explanations. The rest of us don't care. We just want to see ships go flying around and we want to watch laser swords
and some pew pews. Oh, don't forget about all of the EU content. That, I mean, I guess I don't necessarily know like how much of that was specifically like, you know, concept by concept and plot point by plot point green lit by Lucas. But I'm gonna bet that chances are good they filled in a bunch of gaps for him and didn't always tie together with all of the other EU content.
Yep.
And that's something that he, like, I mean, I guess technically gets to cherry pick, but it's as much a privilege as it is a chore.
Yeah. And that's, Disney knew that going into buying everything. It's like, we're buying Star Wars and we're going to Schrodinger's cat the EU. It's, you know, it doesn't exist and it exists until we say otherwise. That's why we got the version of Thrawn that we did. It's like, he's too good of a character. And who knows, at this point, we might actually get some version of Heir to the Empire. Like, that's entirely possible. What the end game of the 4 TV series that they've got going on is going to be. But yeah, I do agree that, like, Filoni isn't just stitching this together, and he's not just trying to unify the universe in a way that makes sense to the fans and honors the work. He did that extra step of, I'm going to spend time with George and I'm going to learn from George what makes Star Wars Star Wars. What is Star Wars to him? And he discovered what that was and keeps those lessons in mind when he's making anything that has to do with Star Wars. Like, he said it himself. It's like, the number one lesson I got from George was Star Wars is for children. It's for kids. If whatever you're making cannot play to an audience of children, you've done it wrong.
And do you think that he has held up that edict?
Oh yeah. He started with the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars were for children.
It starts out very obviously for children, but it definitely gets more mature as the seasons progress.
Does it get more mature, or does it not talk down to children the way adults do? It presents exactly what happened, but it at no point assumes that the children will not understand it.
Okay, no, that's fair. I definitely, as you get into like season 4 and beyond, like there's a lot more of like the Civil War conversations, like the stuff on Mandalore, which I think objectively can get a little boring. But but not hard to understand and not whittled down, you know, to be understandable at the lowest common denominator. You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
For me, it was the realization there was a 2-part episode that explained what war profiteering was in no uncertain terms. That a 6-year-old watching Star Wars would have went, wait, those are the bad guys. And they pointed right to the cloneers, the robot makers, and the banks. And you look at them, it's like, oh, yeah, of course there's the villains. They look like stereotypical villains. And you've called them out as they're the only people that's making money. And you've pointed out that they're taking money that's paying for the war is being taken away from families and children and schools and hospitals. How is any child not supposed to interpret that as, oh yeah, no, those are the bad guys? It's not the droids, it's not the separatists, they're not the bad guys. You've now shown us that they're trying to fix the same things on their side. It's like, we're out of money. And the bank said, we'll just loan you more. You can pay us back later.
But there are episodes where it's Mandalore's own soldiers who are essentially profiting off of like the black market and stuff. That's it, and that's less obvious. But again, like to defend your thesis on the matter, they do in fact like have like a very clear cut and dry, because it's Ahsoka who is still sort of only now beginning to see the different nuances of the good guys versus the bad guys, and she's being very cut and dry about like, well, no, that's bad, and if you think that something bad like that is happening, then it needs to be investigated and reported, and then kids get caught by bad guys.
Yep. And that's why that's why Ahsoka as a character is so important. Like, she is a child when we are introduced to her, and we watch her grow up and we watch her learn things.
And go from seeing the world in black and white to anything but.
And that means the kids that are watching, that are right along with her, are going, oh, okay. I mean, that's the idealized version. There are a lot of kids that are just like, yeah, I love it. It's pew pew and laser swords. Pew pew, laser sword.
You can lead a horse to water. Bex, who is a parent, unlike either of us, points out that this is what she was going to comment, is like, if anything, the Clone Wars gives the groundwork and examples to talk to kids about the things that are actually happening.
Exactly.
I think that you tend to have a better eye for that than I do.
I think it's I'm always looking for patterns, so that there is some bias in my theories, as I am, like, I will sometimes, to fit patterns, I will skew data. I'm aware of my own. It's a specific type of bias. The word is escaping me. It's
thinking.
It's a C word. Someone in the chat will. Yeah, it's something bias.
All right, I'm not gonna be able to.
Someone will remember. Someone will remind me later. It'll be great. I think that's all I got.
Confirmation bias.
Thank you. That's it. Confirmation. See? C word. So I'm aware of my own confirmation bias, and I try to manage it when I'm spewing forth my views of the world. I don't know why I'm making so many stupid faces today, too.
And I can't stop yawning, apparently.
I think that means it's time for the show to be done.
Well, I think we've done a decent job of replacing the Bad Batch segment with related content, so.
Indeed.
Oh, there we go. And here come all of the comments in the feed.
Yep, Hisham.
Yes.
Hisham had my back.
Thanks, friends.
This has also been lovely to have everyone in the chat tonight. It's been very lively chat. That's always fantastic. I
Yeah.
like it when whatever we're talking about sparks off conversations that everyone else can have while they're listening in the chat. That's some of my favorite chat. So we miss Aaron. He'll be back. He won't be back next week though. It's just going to be these two idiots again.
Yeah, be prepared for more of this, guys.
So next week we should talk about both episodes 8 and 9 of the Bad Batch.
I absolutely promise to be caught up by then. I don't know how I missed an entire episode because I just watched episodes like.
It's been a busy week.
I could have sworn it was last night. I was watching episodes of the Bad Batch, so I don't know how I missed one.
Feel free to text me immediately upon watching said episode and going and spewing all of your oh my gods at me.
I probably will.
It'll be great. And then Loki is the next episode of Loki is tomorrow.
Perfect.
Maybe we'll have a guest. Maybe we won't. Yeah. Maybe something else will happen in the world that we'll have to talk about.
We'll see.
God, I hope not.
Ugh, please, God, to
know. I think that's it. I think we can wrap up.
I think so. So with that, I have been Bina Rita.
I have been Kaebel Hashitani.
And we will talk to everybody next week.
Pew pew.
Watch out for phasers. Bye, friends. All right, live stream is off.
Yay.
And yes, I would